Ah, here we are. Welcome back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to My Baby Experts. I'm here back on Facebook Live. We're on Amazon. We're on YouTube. We're all over the place today. Happy Monday. This is Sherry Creaso, and so happy to be back with you. And I have my very special guest, as you can see over. Let me see. Am I on the mirrored thing? Yes, I am. Over here too. It's actually to my left here. This is Dr. Robbie OShea. She's here to spend time with me and with all of you, so we can give you some really amazing information that is going to help you and your baby, and hopefully give you some really good stuff that you haven't heard before, and make some sense out of something that seems so common and that we've heard so much about, but maybe we don't understand fully. And that's always the point here on My Baby Experts, is to really just become more knowledgeable. I'm going to pop something up on the screen here for you for a second. Here you go. Okay. So the name of today's show, oh, and I spelled it wrong. Look at that. What's wrong? Let's fix that. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Hold on. Let me fix that. I'm sorry, you guys. That was me moving fast. There you go. How's that? Is that better? You see it okay? All right. Now we're good. That's so like me. I'm the worst speller. Robbie, you don't understand. I can do a lot of things. One thing I can't do, and it's always the big joke here with Joe and I, is that I cannot spell. That wasn't me just not knowing how to spell. That was me forgetting a letter, but that's what I can't do, is spell. But anyway, I'm here, like I said, with Dr. Robbie OShea. And Dr. Robbie is a pediatric physical therapist with decades and decades of experience in this field. And I understand. So, and I say that with so much respect, and just so happy to have you here to spend some time with the audience. So welcome to the show, Dr. Robbie.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's exciting. And this is a new platform for me. So it's always good to be able to grow and stretch in different ways. So this is fantastic.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, we have the best group over here, and they're over on Facebook. They're over on Amazon, also on YouTube. Just a great group of moms and dads who just want to learn more, to have the healthiest and, have the healthiest babies, happy families, and do the best they can. So Kaylee's giving me a little notice here that you sound a little quiet. So I'm going to see if I can up your sound a little bit. Kaylee, tell me if that is better. Okay, so we will try to see if that helps, because we want to be able to hear everything that is being said. Mm-hmm. Okay.
How's that, Kaylee? Good?
Kaylee, is that better? Do we have better sound there? It takes a minute. Sometimes there's a delay, so we got to just give her a second to catch up here. I'm going to actually turn it all the way up and see if that's still quiet. Okay. How do I fix that? Let me see. Hold on one second.
If I talk louder, does that help?
That sounds louder to me. So I'm going to assume yes. I'm going to assume that's better. Okay. So we'll wait for her, but I think message is coming in. Hold on. Here we go. Yes, better, she says. Yes, better.
Excellent. Good.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Well, today's show, when I was thinking about what we should call this show, and we're going to be talking about prone positioning for your baby. That means time on their tummy, time on their belly. And when I was thinking about the name of the show, what came to mind is what's wrong with tummy time. And I want to explain that a little bit so that everybody understands that there's nothing wrong with tummy time. There's nothing wrong with tummy time at all. The only thing really that's wrong with tummy time is the idea that it's somehow just play. And that's really, it's just for fun, and there's no benefits as far as developmental benefits or anything that's going to be important that you should be doing. This is not just something that is optional. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today, is that it's really not just an optional fun time, but really something necessary that every baby needs. And I'm sure you're going to agree with that. And that's really what this whole show is about today.
And I really appreciate the opportunity to come and get the message out, because I think what we've seen over time is that a couple things have happened. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, is real, and everyone should be afraid of SIDS. And then parents, young parents, new parents, go to the doctors, and the physicians or the medical community always warns people about SIDS, and you can't put the baby on their tummy, la la la. And really, that has a very small time limited. But people forget to do the follow-up and say, now it's okay. Now your baby is safe. So today I want to talk about a little bit about all of those things, developmentally, why it's important. When can you put your baby on tummy time, or prone, as we like to call it? When's too much? When's not enough? So we'll go over all of that, and we have some videos and some pictures to help clarify things for your audience. And anybody who has any questions, please throw them up in the chat. I'm happy to stop, answer questions, all of that.
I appreciate that so much. And that's exactly what we want, you guys, is for you to be able to ask your questions. Go ahead and submit them here into the chat. That's what we're here for today, is to give you the information and also address your individual questions. So go ahead and do that. We're going to be doing the chat over here we are streaming to multiple platforms today because we want this information to get out to everywhere. If you're on Amazon and you want to shop, you got your link right there. If you're here on Facebook with us, Kaylee's going to be putting the link right here into the chat for you, so that if you wanted to check out, let me say this, our show today, and you can see it right in the corner of the screen, is sponsored by Crawligator. Okay, and Crawligator is such an amazing product. You guys have seen me talk about it before. That's what brought Dr. Robbie and I together, was both of our love for this particular product as a tool. Okay, that's what it always is. It's always about the education that you need for your baby, and then what are some of the best tools that you can use to do the thing that we're explaining. Okay, and that's what we both find in this Crawligator, and I'm going to show you more about that in a little while. So I just wanted you to know that. We're also going to be doing some giveaways today. So we're going to be giving away 2 Crawligators today. 2. Okay, so we're going to have 2 winners today, which is awesome. So if you haven't entered to win and you're on Facebook with us right now, you could go ahead and actually just type into the chat right now and see if this works. I hope it's working. You could just type the word tummy right into the chat, and you should be able to get a message from me where you can go right through and get your member ID number if you don't have that, and also be entered into the giveaway for today. We're going to have 2 of them, give away 2 of them. Okay, so we'll give one away halfway through the show and then another one right at the end. All right, so let me just make sure that, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm streaming to so many platforms. I want to make sure that I am getting everything on here. Hold on, you guys, sorry about that. I'm going to let Kaylee tell me if everything is good. I can't see, I want to be able to see the chat fully and make sure that we are all good. So hold on a second. Let me see. Come on. I'll get it. Where is my chat here? Oh boy. There it is. Okay.
I see it. Yep.
You see it? Okay, good.
Yep.
Good. And I'm actually going to pull it up on my phone too, because I think it'll be easier for me to see. Too many windows. And I have the biggest monitor you can imagine. We just got this beautiful monitor, which I'm so excited about, that covers the whole thing. So it makes it so much easier. And you would think that I would just be all set here. But for some reason, give me a second. We have to be ready.
Have to be ready.
But we go to the last second. You could ask Dr. Robbie. We go to the last second here getting ready.
It's good. We're ready.
All right. We're ready. Okay, now I got it. Okay, thank you guys for your patience. Everyone's being patient with me, and I got it. Okay, fantastic. We're ready to go. So let's start. First of all, I just wanted to ask you, there's a couple things that we want to cover today. And the most important, and one of the most important questions is, what is what is prone positioning, and why is it so important for babies?
Right. And I want parents to remember, it's not prunes, it's prone. So if you're into world,
yes.
It's just the difference of that one little letter. So prone for babies is very important, because if you're a full-term baby and you come out, you've born now, you're usually flexed up or kind of curled up. And that's the way physiologically you're supposed to be. And then as you start to look around your world a little bit, you work on your cervical, your neck extensors, and your full trunk extensors. And so it's kind of like baby planks. And I was thinking this morning, Sherry, was like, well, why would, how am I going to explain this in one word? And this is kind of what I came up with, is if you as an adult are having a crazy day and you just come home, and here are your choices. You can lay in your recliner and just watch the world go by, or you can do 10 minutes of planks. What's your choice?
Yeah. Yeah.
And babies have the kind of the same thing. They're going to want to just lay in their recliners, lay in whatever we put them in. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They don't want to do planks. Nobody wants to do planks when they're tired or throughout the day.
Right.
And so planks or prone for babies really helps them have to look up and see what's going on in their world and have to kind of raise their back up and see. And that's exactly why new babies shouldn't be put in prone, because they can't lift their head to clear side to side. And that's when you get the suffocation issues, or you get spit caught in their mouth and they get medically impaired. But as soon as that baby can clear their head side to side on a firm surface, then you should start to put them in prone safely and supervised. And so we'll talk about some different ways to do that. So if you show pictures 1A, it's the two pictures of stacked on top of each other, if you can.
Yes.
We can kind of show this. So prone helps with strength. It helps to promote hand-eye coordination, and it helps to promote that on-time mobility. So when babies are supposed to be moving physiologically, they're supposed to be starting to move and roll. And if you have a sick baby who's been in the NICU or just hasn't been feeling well and fighting for their lives, that's not high on their list of physiological importance. They're trying to stay alive. And so we miss that window. But we'll see little Xavier here on his Crawligator. And what I want you to see in that top picture is that his therapist, he was born at risk, and his therapist was working with him. And we're trying to see how he's just kind of got his arms back behind him, and he's got his chin on the Crawligator. And so he can just lay there and do nothing. But within seconds, in that bottom picture, you see Xavier lifting his head up and getting weight through those arms. So if he's not raised up off the floor a little bit, he will just lay like a cute little infant and not raise his head up. He will not raise. So we're working on strengthening. We're working on conditioning. We're working on vestibular when babies look up and look down. And we're all of that coming together naturally. And that just is kind of put into baby development. However, the world has moved away from everybody lived on a farm and was home all day. And the baby, when I was a child, the baby was put in a playpen just to be, because there were 9 of us. And so 9 kids, the safest place for you to be was a playpen. And you sort of rolled around and did your own thing till you got hungry, right? But in today's world, we're much more educated and much more aware of health, infant health. And so we had this fear of SIDS. And as soon as it was determined that SIDS was because babies couldn't clear their head, bedding was dangerous. And so if you had the baby on a fluffy feather bed, it took more strength. If the baby was rolling but got caught up in one of the bumpers, they couldn't get their head or their face away from the surface. And if you can't get your head away from the surface, then you suffocate. Okay? Yeah. So we have the fear of SIDS, very, very real. And I want all the parents out there to know that you should not put your baby in prone until they can clear their head by themselves. About 3 months. Okay? Now, also, we have modern day society. And so babies are on the move. And we have car seats. Back in the day, car seats were like an afterthought. Everybody was in the way back of the station wagon rolling around like bowling balls. Now every kid has their specific car seat until they're 8. It depends on the state, but around 8. But you have car seats the kids are in. You have bouncy seats the children are in. You have mats that go on the floor, and they put wonderful eye-catching toys. So it's great fun to be sitting, and it's great fun to be laying on your back. But when we forget to put babies on their bellies, then they lose all those things that I just mentioned. The hand-eye coordination, the strengthening, the looking around, kind of knowing where their body is. And so interestingly, in the professional world, this generation of babies is called container babies. And people get so upset with that because you're like, my baby's not in a container. And if you think about it, they are. They're in their bounce. They're safe. They're very safe in their containers, but we've limited their ability to move around and get around. And so this is what I was like, well, we have to build in a fun way to be on tummies. Because if you think about it, why do babies cry? And now I want you to pull up 3B, if you would, Sherry. Picture 3B. Sure. And so babies cry when we put them in prone, and I want you to just watch Xavier here. And this is when he was littler, and this was his first time on the Crawligator, and he looks panicked and terrified. He's like, what are you doing with me? Well, part of it is all of a sudden I go from looking out, being in my recliner chair, to having to really work hard to find my mom or my dad or my grandma. I have to hold my head up and work to find the fun thing I was looking at. And if I just relax, I fall face first into the ground and I don't see anything. And so babies cry and complain because they don't like it. They're like, I want to be in my recliner chair. Just like the rest of us would, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things, and as a therapist, I tell parents is let them cry a little bit. But there's other ways to achieve prone to get the children used to it. And so one of the things I say to parents is put them over your lap. When you're watching TV in your recliner chair or you're on the couch, put the baby face down over your lap. So their legs are hanging off one side of your lap and their arms and head off the other side. And in this way, the baby feels you. And so you're there and you can pat their back and be present with them. But they also, if they want to look up, they have to use those back extensor muscles and those cervical extensor muscles. If they want to reach out, they have to use those shoulder muscles. Another way, so that's easy, when you're just sitting. Another way is to hold the baby like a football. So if you put your arm through their legs and hold them on their belly, and they're facing out. So we call it the football carry. This also gets children used to weight bearing through their belly and being in that prone position, but having the benefits of who's ever carrying them close by, talking to them. And so it's not so scary. It's not so isolating. And so
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Does that make sense?
They're going to feel close to you too. And they're going to feel supported, not, face down into the carpet.
Right. Exactly. And, because who wants to do planks all day? Now, you might ask, how much prone time? How much tummy time? And the research is showing us that kids should really spend an hour a day in prone. Now, that's not an hour consecutively. That's over the day, cumulative. So if you think about it, when after you're done changing their diapers, and that's, not on the changing table, because kids can fall off a changing table, but just put the baby on the floor or put the baby on a safe place where they could be for prone for just a little bit while you're going to get your coffee or while you're going to put your makeup on or whatever you're doing in the morning. It's okay for the baby to be face down, especially if you can keep an eye on them and supervise them, because you would immediately know if the baby was starting to struggle or cough or wailing. My trick I always tell parents is if the baby is fussing and crying and you pick that baby up and the baby immediately stops, you don't even get the right? You know that you got tricked. You know you lost, right? And so then say, oh, you little Dickens, you, I'm going to put you back on your belly and you can just lay there, but now I know that cry. Okay, so that's always, if a baby is really hurt, they will not instantaneously stop crying. There'll always be some leftover tears or breathing or something. And parents typically know when they've been had. You're like, oh, gosh darn it. The other thing is when you're sitting watching TV or reading a book at home, instead of putting the baby in their bouncy seat or wherever they're in their little exerciser or wherever, put the baby, sit on the floor with the baby and put the baby on the floor next to you. Again, you can put them over their lap. If you have a Crawligator, you're right there. But I think that playing on the floor, you can't fall off the floor, is what I always tell parents. It's really hard to fall off the floor. So then you have to look at, well, what's the dangers of being on the floor? And some people, it's very drafty. And my grandmother used to tell us, if you put the baby on the floor, they're going to get pneumonia right away. But I'm here to tell you that whatever grandma says is truth. No one's going to argue with grandma. So if that's the voice in your head, then that's what you believe. If you're afraid of, when we were in Mexico, we were warned about the scorpions. I'm like, okay, if you're worried that your baby's going to get stung by a scorpion, or
that'd be a problem.
There's critters, people live in various places. The nice thing about the Crawligator is that it raises that baby up off the ground.
Yeah.
Just enough so that and you can see the little picture on the side there, that the baby is raised up just enough, but their hands and feet touch the ground. And I see Marnie saying...
Let's talk... Oh, go ahead. You're looking at Marnie's comment.
I see Marnie saying that it's hard to get back up the floor. Yes, being on the floor benefits all of us. Motion is lotion. That's what we say.
No, I was just gonna say, let's go back for one moment to the idea of just the practical putting. We understand now some better techniques and ways that we can put baby in tummy time. How often should we be doing it? Should we be doing it every day? Once they're in that position, how long should we keep them in that position? Like, what actually works?
Okay, so again, every day, absolutely. Cumulatively up to an hour. And that's very much based on age. So if your baby is 4 months old or 3 months old, you have to look and see, will they tolerate 30 seconds or 1 minute before they get fatigued? And how do babies show fatigue? They put their head down and then they can't lift their head up. They get agitated. So build it in. As they get stronger and they figure out kind of how to move a little bit, you'll actually see them enjoy it. Because one of the problems is that when they're face down and having to work so hard to hold their head up, they feel left out. They have fear of missing out. They feel left out of whatever's going on. And when they're laying on their back or in supine, they can see everything very easily what's going on, so they don't have fear of of missing out. Okay, so build it up. I try to tell people a little bit in the morning, build it into your daily routine. So think about from the time the baby gets up in the morning until the time they go to bed at night, when can you build in some of that time that makes it easy on you and not stressful as the parent? So is it when you're watching TV? Is it when you're carrying them and just kind of tip them more when you're holding them so they're looking more face down and they're used to that? But once they start to move, once they start to commando crawl around on the floor, then they really find enjoyment because they can get to where they want to go. And what they find, is kids on their back, they can't get to where they want to go. They can see everything, but they're kind of stuck there unless they're scooching on their back and getting bald-headed. So once they're on their belly and they're strong enough to hold their heads up, then they figure out movement, and that's when we have that on time and just right mobility happening.
And I think like what you're saying too, if your baby doesn't like tummy time, or you're just starting out, baby's just at an age where you're like, okay, let's start doing some tummy time, and starting slow where you're just doing a few minutes to start off, two things are going to happen from what I'm understanding is that one, baby's going to start to get more used to the position. So it's a familiar thing over a few days, over a week, they're going to really start to get used to that's a routine. Babies love routines. But then also the strength starts to build as well. So they can actually handle the position better. So both of those things I would assume are kicking in to make it easier with each time that you try.
Exactly. And so it's just that matter of getting them used to that. And now, I see in the chat, Marnie asked about vertical tummy time, and I'm assuming that's where the child is kind of placed sort of upright, more at a 45-degree angle.
Also, you can also do that with baby wearing. So as the baby's in an upright position.
Yes.
I think that's what she's describing too. Okay, so talked about vertical tummy time.
Okay, so if you're going to be in that and the baby's in the carrier there, make sure the baby's arms are tucked in underneath them so they can push off and look up at you instead of just hanging out to the side, just sort of being out there. So it's all about getting some weight bearing through your shoulders and through your hips. And so that's why if you can position the baby there, they can use the hands in their arms, but that still leaves out the legs, and the legs don't quite know what to do. So developmentally,
so we may be getting some strengthening in the neck and head muscles, but we're not getting the back and the legs and the hips that you're describing. That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And we want that baby to have the full schema of their body. Like I have arms, I have legs, I can move them, I can chew on them. And so all of that, bringing it together. And so you just balance it out throughout the day. I mean, if you're doing vertical tummy time, fantastic. Just make it work. Make it a little bit of a work. And even if it's just for a minute or two, and then give the baby a rest. I like to consider it as baby planks. And so how can we make those baby planks and that strengthening and development easy for the routine and easy on the parents. And because if the baby's crying all the time, that's just way too stressful. And then you go into, I just have to protect everyone's sanity and keep the baby not upset of what they're doing.
Yep.
The other thing I want to bring up is that's very popular in development today is we see babies that have flat skulls on their back and bald spots. And that's how, as a therapist, I can see which babies spend a lot of time on their backs or in supported sitting. Because I look at the baby and they've got this bald spot on the back of their head. So if somebody's telling me, oh, no, they're in prone all the time, I'm like, maybe, but they're still bald on the back. So we have to worry about head shape as well. And the reason we worry about head shape, two reasons. One is cosmetics, and the other one is that if children actually have misshaped heads, it can lead to adult TMJ. And so we want to be careful of that. And so, babies who have been in containers or spent a lot of time on their back or on their sides, especially babies coming out of the NICU, we really want to get, as their health allows, we really want to get them into prone to give that head some unweighted time. The head is not supposed to be a weight-bearing surface. Your hands and your shoulders are supposed to do the weight-bearing. And so we want to get that head time to reform. And babies' heads, because they're soft and because of the fontanelles, they will reform if you unweight them. And so, again, that time to do that helps the baby's head shape. And we want to be very cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, totally. No, totally. Let's talk a little bit, before we go on to some more information. And this is such amazing, good information for new parents. I mean, and every time we do these topics, even I learn more and more that you hear from a different perspective or a different expert. I didn't give you a chance at the beginning of the show to really explain your background a little bit, and I'd love to have you be able to do that. So just tell us a little bit more about your career and your experience and what it is that you've done.
Sure. So I had scoliosis when I was a kid, and then worked at a Easter Seals camp and fell in love with physical therapy that way. And so right from high school, went into physical therapy school. And I always worked with kids. So for most of my career that spanned clinically full-time 35 years in the clinic, I would say 30 of those were spent with children and children's families. And man, you learn a lot. You first of all, you learn how much you don't know, right? But so I've done a lot of work in pediatrics, from rehab hospitals to schools, and then most recently in early intervention in Illinois, which is 0 to 3 programs, which is really working a lot with families and the baby. But after 3, the baby is your full focus, and the family is sort of this byproduct that is really a transportation mechanism. And when you get to school, that's even worse, because everything's focused on school performance. But in the 0 to 3 world, everything is focused around the family and how to make the family function better, more efficiently, just be a stronger community within themselves. And so I've learned a lot working with families, just the stress that a child who isn't developing on time brings. And part of that is just because we're competitive beings. And so we have our girlfriends or our guy friends, and they're all like, oh, my baby sat up and your baby hasn't yet. Or especially our high school moms and dads. They're still in that high school adolescent competitiveness. And now they have a baby, and their friend's baby's doing one thing and their baby isn't. Or you have kids coming out of the NICU. And one of the things that if you've had a child who's been very, very sick for the first 6 months of their lives, or even the first 2 weeks, you never quite get over that feeling that the baby's head's going to fall off at any given moment. And so you got to treat that baby. You feel like you have to treat that baby very carefully. And the stress that brings to a family unit. And so I always would ask my moms and dads, I'm like, hey, if your friend who doesn't live nearby you calls and is like, how's baby Joey doing? What do you say? Do you say, well, he's not in the hospital and I didn't have to go to the neurologist 3 times this week, or we didn't go to the ER, blah, blah, blah. Or do you say, oh, he's so happy and he's cutting his first tooth? Parents of sick infants will line up on the what's wrong side. because that's what they think about. You know, what are their O2 sats? What are all of this? Are they holding their head up? Is their head going to fall off? Are they going to choke? And then parents who don't have sick infants are just still watching their children very carefully. But so in my practice, I really, in my later years of practice, was really saying, why are we stressing out families? Like, how can we make child development not a competition? How can we make child development part of bringing the whole family and the dog? Like, if that dog is helpful, we can bring in that dog. And actually, quite honestly, because families are very busy, I find between like 4-year-old siblings all the way up until about 7th grade siblings, if there's one of those people in the family, I hone in on them, because I know that they're not figuring out dinner, they're not figuring out who's paying the bills, and they're not figuring out laundry. So they can figure out their brother or sister and help. And so we make it a little competition. Like, who, okay, you're the older sister, how can you have fun with this baby? You know, how can you help? And because the parents are like, oh, they're so fragile, nobody can touch the baby. They're like this china doll made out of porcelain china. And so my experience is I've really just learned so much from families and parents. And now with social media, we have such a great way to reach huge audiences and dispel myths. But the downside of social media is we call it Dr. Google. Everybody goes to Dr. Google, you know. And what does Dr. Google say? And so the first answer that pops up may or may not be right, but everybody takes it as evidence. So I think we have to be, as consumers and parents, the other thing I really try to teach all the parents I work with is, who's saying it? Is it a reputable source, or is it, you know, Joe Mama saying something on something? Or is it, and you know, in all cultures, like I always try to find out who's the power, I call them the power broker. They may not live with the family, but who are the parents always fact checking with? Typically it's grandma. There's always somebody else. In the Chicago neighborhoods, in some of the neighborhoods, we had the woman who ran the neighborhood. Was very affectionately called Big Mama. I was like, who's Big Mama? Because we've got to get to find out who that person is, because that's who everyone is listening to. And you have to be, as a therapist, endeared and trusted by the power broker in the family. Otherwise, the parents, again, are stressed because they don't know who to listen to, you know. And so my credentials, and that's why I was so excited when I bumped into the Crawligator, because let me tell you what I used to do, because I knew prone was a very important thing. There was nothing out there that families could purchase. And so I happened upon, at the Target or Walmart or wherever I was, the little itty bitty mini skateboards that I thought to myself, who would ever use a mini skateboard? Like, that's ridiculous. They're not the full-size skateboards that are useful to children. These mini skateboards, who? And I'm like, oh, I know. Robbie will use that. And I'll take TheraBand and strap the kid to the skateboard. So now they're in prone, strapped to the skateboard, and everyone's crying. The baby's crying. The mom's crying. Everybody's crying. The baby's hitting their chin off of the rough skateboard. And I was like, this is just no good. But we have to get this baby having fun and experiencing movement that they self-propelled. Okay, so if I carry a baby, they experience movement, but they're not in charge of that movement. Then I found at a physical therapy conference, I saw the Crawligator, and I nearly burst into tears. I was like, this is the best thing, because don't have to strap the baby down. It's conformed and it's formed so that baby sits very comfortably. There he is. Very comfortably, anatomically, and we'll show some videos where the kids can actually move in it, kind of wiggle side to side. And if you have a side, like the side view, you can see that it comes up and helps hold the child there just naturally. There's no straps, and it's low enough to the ground that they don't roll over their fingers. Another problem with the skateboard was they were always catching their fingers. So skateboards are no good. But this is a great little tool to use. And I say to families, use this when you're making dinner or and let the baby explore movement. Back them up, and we'll have another little video. If you start to show picture 4B and 4C. So here we have 4B, and again, Xavier, he can get his feet to the floor, he can get his hands to the floor. So just by pushing off his mom's fingers there, he's experiencing independent movement, self-generated movement. He did it himself. So that is just intrinsically pleasing if you do it yourself. And if the mom walks away, he's not going to roll off into the abyss and bang his head on the floor. And in fact, he's going to, if we put him up against the wall, he can start to kick a little bit and start to self-generate that movement. Now, if we go to the next picture, let's see. Yeah, so here's Xavier. And we put shoes on him just so he gets a little traction on his floor. But see, he's just playing there. But those legs are kicking now. He's got some weight shift there. Oh, he's picking his arms up. He's holding his head up, which is a huge part of his body weight. And you can see him rocking back and forth within that crawligator. So here's a little guy who was very, very sick as an infant and was in the NICU for many months, and so didn't experience normal newborn movement. So he's just playing. Now he's just playing with flexion and extension, and you'll see, oh, wait, he got to something. So now he can get himself into a little bit of shenanigans, which if he couldn't before, and if his mom was holding him, he couldn't before, but now he can start to play with whatever that is, the vacuum or whatever that is, chase the Roomba. So that's another thing that we've seen, is that families that have Roombas, the vacuum robots, we can have the kids on the floor on the crawligator, and they can chase the robot vacuum. So again, something we didn't have when I was an infant.
And I think the point here is that it's not only just for good positioning to have them in a prone position where they're more comfortable, they're lifted up, their heads are not smushed into the ground, they're able to really be in a more comfortable position in that way, but also the mobility. So there's the two pieces to the crawligator that just work great together. But if you're using it, now, just to say, this only works on floor. So if you're going to put it on the carpet, it's not going to roll on the carpet. You know, I know there's people who think that it's going to just roll on every surface. It's not. You have to be careful too. Obviously, anything that's mobile device, you don't want to just leave your child alone. So you want to make sure that you're with them, you're supervising the whole time. But it is really the only, prone positioning mobility device for babies out there. There is nothing else that I've ever seen or that you've ever seen that does this. All these tummy time toys and products that you see on the market, most of them, if you really look at what they're talking about, they're talking about laying on their back most of the time, or it's just a mat where you're just laying them on a mat. It's not doing anything. Mats,
yeah, and you get some excitement and you can bat around on it and the little fish move, and so you get some that hand-eye and cognition, but the mobility point is missing. And so the other thing that I kind of serendipitously found is that I do a lot of work in daycares. And so I brought one into a daycare, and they were like, oh, we don't want anything. I'm like, listen, you can wipe this down with Cavicide. You can, soak it in hot water, whatever you want to do. But it can go baby to baby to baby. It's not child specific.
Right.
And you can wash it down super easily. And if you ask Crawligator, they can see that little gray pad. They can actually give you sell you a different pad for each kid. So some of the daycares will buy one. Now the toy or the instrument that's next to this Crawligator that you see on the screen, the other yellow one, was the 1970s version. And so Stacy, who brought the Crawligator back, that was what was available in the 70s. And you can see that then they, as a company, upgraded it. So you can't get to the wheels anymore. You can't roll off it very easily. It's sturdier.
That was one of the questions that came up on, I think it was on Instagram from someone, just, worried about their fingers. First of all, there's like rubber around the bottom, and it's so close to the ground that prevents, you can see the difference here, prevents that from happening. So it is safe for their little fingers.
And if, depending on the carpet, if you have a low pile carpet and a strong baby, then they'll be able to push over it a little bit. But it's not designed to really be a cardio workout. for your baby.
Gotcha.
To, like, so you don't
I
want to
see. I wanted to see if something works here. If I do, I just wanted to see if I could add anything to the screen. Marnie asked a question. I just want to be able to answer it before it scrolls away. What about when he starts to roll? She's asking.
So what we found is that the kids don't roll off it because of the cupped sides. When you can tell when they're done with the Crawligator is they start to back off it. Like they push off of it backwards over the tail, and then off they go on their own crawling campaigns. And so that's when you know as a parent, like, okay, the child doesn't need it anymore. But you'll also start to see that the child is up in that 4-point crawling position and doing some rocking, or they rock over it. You know, they're on the Crawligator, they get moving, then they'll stop. And the Crawligator in its design is allowed that the hands and the knees can be on the ground. And so the child can push up, do some of that rocking, and then go back on and scoot. And so, but the other thing I've noticed is that if there's a 2-year-old or, again, not super heavy 2-year-old or 3-year-old, those kids like to sit on it and just kind of rock back and forth and kind of do a sway. And
it's a strong device. It's a
very strong device. And no other kid in the family is going to break it. You don't have to worry about anybody breaking it. And so the families that I've worked with have really enjoyed the flexibility of it. The daycares I've worked with have enjoyed the flexibility and the fact that you can keep it clean. And it's plastic and kids drool. And there's nothing really for the baby to chew on. You know, the baby can try to get its teeth around the edge of it, but it's very difficult to chew on. And so the kids won't get stimulated just by chewing on the thing. It's not a chew toy. And so those all work. Yeah. So the Crawligator basically works like a skateboard. It's a well-balanced 4 wheels underneath it that move in multi-directional. So the child can go side to side, backwards, forwards. And again, it's the independent mobility. So even if they just push it a little bit, it goes. If they give it a huge shove and they're really strong, here we see baby. And this baby's just playing, trying to figure out where her feet are or his feet are. But you see that with the hands on the ground, the baby can rock back and forth, kind of slide back and forth. But the feet come up and come down. And the baby's looking up and around and like, hey, look at me. And so and it's typical development. Babies will go backwards first and then they go forward, right? And so the baby can follow that normal developmental trajectory or that typical trajectory and just go backwards. And they get bumped into a wall and then they start to go forward because they have no other position to go in.
Yeah. Before we keep moving forward, I just want to take a quick pause and just let everybody know that we have our first winner for the Crawligator. Kaylee's going to be announcing the winner in the chat. So hopefully you guys all got entered. We're going to have 2 prizes today. We're going to give away 2 Crawligators today. And if you want to shop for the Crawligator, we also have links here in the chat. Also on Amazon, we have it right here in the carousel for you. So you could just click right over. You can learn more about the product. Go over to the website because there's a lot of really good information over there too. And then we'll still have one more winner to go in a little while. So good luck to our first winner. Let me answer. There was another question. Karen asked the question, is there a time limit that you should put them on it for?
No, I would say use the babies as a guide. And when they get frustrated and fussy and they're ornery, they've had enough of that, and give them a different position, or hold them, or, just like you'll lay, you'll sit in your recliner and you'll lay on the couch for a little bit, but then you got to get up and move a little bit. So I don't think a baby should be in any position for a huge extended amount of time. And so I think there's, this gives you an opportunity to have the baby on their belly and then put them back in their bouncy seat, or put them on their back and let them play with their mat, or just look around and take a break, or hold them, whatever other positioning device or place you like to put them there. And so this is just a toy and a place, and you'll know when the kids get tired. I would say when you first start introducing the Crawligator, go for under a minute and see, just let the child get used to being on their belly and kind of up in the air a little bit. And as soon as you start to see them fatiguing where they can't hold their head up anymore, or, they're just struggling, then you take them off and try it again another time. We don't want them to be frustrated and start to develop negative thoughts about being on their belly.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I figured out how to get the comments here on the screen, so I'm testing out my new features.
There you go.
So if anybody has questions, I'll go ahead and pop them up so we can answer for you. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. Okay. So we also were going to get a little bit into, we talked a little bit about children with medical and developmental issues, but I don't think we really went too far into the conversation and how important this is really for children with special needs and children that started off with any kind of medical conditions from birth. So let's talk a little bit about that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so this is one of those tools or toys that I would like to see across families, across diagnoses. So kids, typical developing kids, can use it as easily as kids who have medical or developmental issues. And so developmentally, what happens when your baby is born, typically now 24 weeks, 25 weeks gestation, those babies survive. And they survive in the NICU for a good long time. Babies who are born addicted for reasons of addiction, they're in the NICU for a long time. And they're struggling physiologically to just stay alive. And so it's very hard to put a ventilator on a baby and IVs when they're face down. And so in the NICU, babies are either on their backs or on their sides. And so what they miss this entire opportunity while they're just really trying to survive of being in prone and trying to hold their heads up. And a lot of the kids, their oxygen levels fall so quickly when there's any stress put upon them that they're swaddled just to keep them alive. And so that's time lost opportunity-wise. So what I like about this, the Crawligator, and just babies being in prone over your lap or in that football carry, is that those babies that were so sick, they're not going to discharge from the babies from the hospital when they're still at risk. Your baby's healthy now, but sometimes they're on a ventilator, sometimes they're still on oxygen, maybe an NG, a feeding tube. How do you get around all of that stuff? And so when a baby who has a trach can be on the Crawligator because they can lift their heads up and we can practice that. Again, you might have to have closer supervision with that baby. You might have to be hands-on, really helping them, putting your hand on top of their pelvis. And so the baby has that anchor to kind of lift up on. If they have an NG tube, you might want to have to, strap it behind them or down their pajamas because now all of a sudden they're looking at this tube and they can get to it a little bit because their hand is right there. So you want to take those things into account. But developmentally, these kids just really lag. And what we see then is in preschool, first grade, kindergarten, those are the kids that have developmental coordination disorders. And so they're, back in the day, we would call them clumsy. Okay, but there's a reason they're clumsy. It's because they never physiologically figured out how to coordinate their movements together. And so this allows the child to really do some nice work, what we call heavy work, in prone, that heavy work being their own body weight and really getting some nice sensory input through those weight-bearing surfaces, learning how to push themselves up, how to control their own movements. Sick babies are transported. Somebody picks them up and carries them here, there. In the hospital, you're in your little incubator, and you just get wheeled around. So by being on the floor and then being raised up off the floor a little bit so they can move, they get control of their destiny. And they learn cognitively, wow, if I push off, I can roll. Or if I push off, I can go backwards. And somebody squeals. An adult makes some reaction, and then I do it again. And so it's all about that cause and effect. And a baby who is in their back or on their back in a incubator or in their baby seat, whatever, there's no cause and effect to their movements. They kick and they wave, but they don't go anywhere. And so this allows them to control their own movements and learn that they can actually go places and move.
Which is so amazing. And I think that was sort of the I think one of the advantages of this product that is not always understood. It's not just for tummy time. It's not just for typical developing children, but for children who have any kind of low muscle tone, for any children that have any kind of developmental issues, it's going to be a godsend in so many ways. Oh, yeah. And I've seen some of these parents who have just used this product and just like, this is the first time they're actually interacting and able to move and able to get around and play with their siblings or move around on the floor, or, just think of the joy in that.
Yeah. And just again, into trouble. Like they see that little piece of dust on the floor, right? Or that, whatever fell that no adult human eye can see.
Yeah.
And what do typical infants do? They crawl over there and start to explore and whatever.
Right.
And so this gives it. And I see Marnie is talking about low muscle tone babies. These are your floppy babies. Very stereotypically kids with Down syndrome, but there's lots of reasons you can be floppy. Kids with spina bifida who essentially are born with a spinal cord injury. This gives them a great way to move using their arms, but they're unweighted a little bit. They have the wheels underneath them. And so it assists their mobility. And so they don't have to rely on their entire body strength. Kids with low tone take twice the energy, the consumption, to move. So they don't want to move. And they get very clever at not moving. They sit and they scoot on their butt. But again, that's not how you walk. You have to have reciprocal arm and leg movement to walk. And if you butt scoot, you miss that opportunity. And so this kind of positions children who are low tone. It gives them that support underneath them, that framework. So now they can really work their arms and legs without having to control all of their trunk. And so it just gives them a little bit of they don't have to use as much energy to do things that children with typical tone have to do.
Awesome. Marnie had another question here. I'm going to pop this on the screen. She's saying, is it soft enough for a Mickey button?
Sure. So for the feeding tube, yes, if you have the Mickey button, you can. Sometimes what they do in Chicago is they call it a turtle shell. It's a little ring that goes around the feeding tube for when kids are starting to crawl, because what happens when they're doing that commando crawling, they shear it off. So yes, it is soft enough for that. You may have to put a little ring around it or build a little piece of a foam ring around it, make those adaptations. With the padding, in that case, you might want to just cut away that little part of the padding. But the padding is very thin. And so you might want to put something underneath the padding that raises the child up off that surface just a little bit. But we haven't had any trouble with kids in feeding tubes in their gut. We have trouble where they're in their nose because they pull them out because they see them.
Awesome. Okay, great. Fantastic. Let's tell us a little bit more about how you're using it in your practice now. So when you're seeing kids in your practice and some of the ways that you're doing it.
And so in my practice, we see if you have a 30% delay across motor, or there's a list of automatics that get you eligible. So if you're at risk for developmental delay, you'll see me for a variety of reasons. And so I try to introduce it age appropriately, and that means when the child is about 2 or 3 months old. If I'm seeing a child for torticollis, very common these days, where they have a stiff muscle in their neck and their head is one way, right? We're trying to get that head unweighted because it's already starting to show some flattening of the skull, plagiocephaly, we call that. So besides doing all sorts of positioning stuff in their car seat and in their baby bouncer, this automatically unweights that head. So it's a bonus. And so I use it in that way. It's parent friendly. So it's easy to get. So I recommend it to parents all the time. In my practice, we have 2 at the clinic, and so we use them across multiple children. Find it very easy to keep it clean. And any child that's not liking prone, we put them on that. And we have a very low pile industrial carpet and tile in the clinic areas. And so we'll start them on the tile just to demonstrate how this can be helpful at home. And usually, and sometimes if the speech therapist is also working with the child, trying to get some mama sounds out. If you stress a kid a little bit, they suddenly want to speak to you. And so the PT comes in and puts them on the Crawligator, and then the speech therapist and the OT get all excited when the child is starting to make sounds, because we're all ignoring the child's crying, right? Because they're supervised in a clinic setting. And so the speech is like, look at, he's doing bilabial, ma, 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 trying to get some adult's attention to rescue him. So that's a way we use it. There's a little known thing that I'm seeing post-COVID, actually, where children have hypofunction of their vestibular system. So every time they stand up or kind of sit up, they feel dizzy. If that happens to adults, we say, wow, we have vertigo and we feel dizzy, and we tell somebody about it. Babies don't know they're not supposed to feel that way. They just sit up and they're like, this is really uncomfortable, and I don't know why. What do you think? Why do you think that's happening? We don't know. We don't know. And the gals, Jennifer Bracewell at University of Alabama, Birmingham, is doing some amazing research on that. And we don't know the cause of it yet, or if it's predictive of anything. So is it predictive of autism? Is it predictive of anything? We just see babies who don't want to move. And so they get terrified and they scream. It's kind of like the old Garfield cat commercial where Garfield's always like, I'll just keep my paws on the ground. These babies just love to be on the ground, but they don't want it to move. And so we'll put them on the Crawligator and just rock them slowly back and forth and get them used to that linear. And in that case, we just go forward, back, no rotation, forward, back, forward, back. And that helps the vestibular system kick on. And so it's curable, but you just have to be able to look at, why isn't this baby moving? What's causing it? You know, what's leading into this, and then do some differential diagnosing. And so those are your sensory integration kids. They just don't like to move. They don't like their feet in the grass. Some of them don't like water. They don't like chunky foods. They're just that sensory kid. But if we go back and we catch them as infants, here's what happens is we're seeing the 2-year-old sibling for picky behaviors, and in walks the baby. And everybody has to hold the baby, right? And so the mom's like, oh, don't touch that baby, it'll start crying. And so we all of a sudden know the baby hasn't even been recognized yet. And we're like, try this and try these different things. So that's one way to use the Crawligator. Another is just as a toy. And we put in front of the baby, we'll put some high motivation toys. Keys are a big thing. Toys that they're not supposed to have, or toys that they can chew on. And what I do, and I encourage parents to do this, don't put it so far out of the baby's reach that they'll never get there. Put it very close, like at the edge. When the baby touches it, you go bananas. That's the best thing you've done all day, baby. And you congratulate that baby. And the next time, move it just a half inch further away. The big mistake parents make is they put things unobtainable, too far away, or as the baby gets there, they move it. They move the object. Can't do that. That's cheating. Let the baby capture the mouse, capture the cheese, and hold on to it, explore it, and then take it away and put it just a little bit further. And then they'll move that little bit further. So, and here we have a picture of a child who apparently looks like they have Down syndrome, but again, positioned in a way where that head is easy to hold up now. It's not a chore. And the hands and the knees hit the ground in a developmentally appropriate way. So this child has two options. Put their head down or start moving those arms and legs. And typically we see the kids put their heads down. Nobody talks to them. They raise their head up and they make a movement of that arms and legs. Everybody cheers, that positive reinforcement, and it becomes a game. So the kids just buy into it. And the parents buy into it because they see that that competition, or that the child reacting to something positive and doing it on their own in their own selves. And then you have you've taken the downward spiral and turned it upwards.
It's fantastic. It's really fantastic. I just want to acknowledge Stacy, who is the owner of Crawligator, a kitty crawler, and the Crawligator product, here in the chat with us. Stacy's always awesome, jumping in and saying hi and being so generous with her giveaways so that we can provide some special prizes. So everybody just say hi to Stacy, and thank you, Stacy, for reviving such an amazing tool, product, device for babies, and then improving it in a way that was with all the needed benefits that it has. So I just really want to acknowledge you for that, because from the moment I saw it, and that I've loved this product for so many reasons, and that we've been describing today, and Dr. Robbie's explaining so well to everyone here. So I'm excited about that.
Yes, and I have no financial interest in the company at all. I get no.
You just love it.
Nothing. From
you just
Stacey.
love it.
I just love it, and I've just had really good luck with it. And I wanted, with this invitation of Sherry, I just wanted to get the word out about this is another option to keep babies moving forward, developing well, getting their strength back, and any baby can use it, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about the Crawligator is that it's something that's going to last too. So it can be used from child to child. It can be passed down to a friend afterwards, like Dr. Robbie was describing, that has a removable pad. You can remove the pad, change out the pad, clean it well, and these can be used for years to come. So it's one of those products that I think that baby's going to get a lot of use out of, and then more use out of that you'll be able to get more use out of. So I mean, it would have been definitely would have been one of those things that I would have had for my children had I had it around when they were at that age. I doubt they want to use it now.
So, they'll find a way, but you don't want to know what
they would find a way.
For.
They would find a way. That's for sure. It's interesting because I did get a message on, and I appreciate this so much, you guys. When my audience, I have so many moms and dads who've been following for a long time, or new followers, but we also have a lot of professionals who follow the pages and the Instagram and the Facebook. And I did get a private message from Atara, who is let me just go back here to her message for me. She said that she is an OT. She's a pediatric OT. Okay. And she had questions about the product. She, as much as we want them to work on neck and back extension, a huge part is also giving feedback to the upper body to eventually learn how to roll and crawl. And she was worried, is this like another container that a baby would have? And I'm thinking, well, no, come to the show so Dr. Robbie can explain it. But I wanted to bring it up on the show here so we can address the concerns of some professionals too, who may never have seen a product like this, and are just kind of maybe chalking it up to all the rest of the containers that we see.
No, and that's a great point. And again, two things that happen is that you see that child learning the movement and kind of the side shifting, which goes along with rolling and elongation. And so you'll see that, and for the OT speak, is you'll really see that nice trunk arm elongation happening. But this is a toy. It is an option. The baby should not be in the Crawligator all day. You should not strap the baby in and there he is for 6 hours. So when they get tired and fussy of, being in their car seat or being in other things, or they're starting to learn, put them in the Crawligator, use it as a tool, but also take them out of the Crawligator and put them on the floor and have them experience that independent movement and that newfound cause and effect that they've just figured out. Now they've got to figure out, how can I duplicate that in my own power
absolutely
on the floor? So this is just a learning tool.
Yep.
And I love that question, because I could see that exactly going well, now they've got to be strapped in prone for 6 hours. Absolutely not.
No. And it's not the only way, like you're saying, that they need to be in prone, but it is a great tool to get them comfortable with it, to help start building those muscles, to then move them to the floor so they can experience the floor prone positioning too, for all the reasons why that is important.
As the child gets tired, I would take them out of the Crawligator and put them on the floor and give them just a couple seconds, a couple minutes of what we call carryover practice. Let them kind of figure out, I was just here and now I'm here and I can freely move my body. And like I always tell my parents, you can't fall off the floor. So if they're in a safe platform, not near the stairs, but you can't fall off the floor. So if the baby goes to roll a little bit and then comes back, you're just taking that creativity and that curiosity of movement and pulling it all together and giving the baby the opportunity to really think on their own. And what can they do with this, and let them explore. And then they might get fussy and tired, and then you move them to something else.
Yeah, no, totally. Everything that we talk about, is never an all or nothing. It's never going to be an all or nothing. We don't want you to take that way. These are tools. These are all important. These are all important information, important ways to utilize the tools that we're showing you. And then there's always more to it. It's never going to be just one thing. So always take it that way. It's never going to be just one thing. But so many parents tell me that their babies, they don't really do tummy time because the baby doesn't like it. And, so they play in other ways. And I think to myself, that's exactly why we need to show what's wrong with tummy time, because this is not just play. It's so, so needed. As you guys
it's
can all
baby
see.
planks. And my athletic trainer who I work with, he said to me,
I could use some tummy time.
We all could use tummy time. He's like, if you have as an adult, if you want to do one exercise a day, because I was traveling a lot. I'm like, what can I do? And he's like, planks. Yeah. Do planks. Yeah. And then you can move your arm, move your legs. Best thing you can do is planks. So for babies, how are they going to build that strength? How are they going to build that hand-eye coordination, and the coordination, the arm-leg coordination and all of that? Planks. But you can't put your baby in a plank. They will definitely have a fit. So this just gives you an option along with the other ways of getting them used to prone. The football carry, holding them over your lap, just being on the floor on their belly. One more option, but they get immediate feedback and different sensory feedback when they're raised up off the ground a little bit and don't have to worry about dragging their belly weight around. They're just moving their arms and legs and getting some assistance. Yeah. So it's really nice that way.
Yeah, no, totally. So, Marnie just said, I'm going to pop this out. I have 8 children and 8 grandchildren, and I fostered 40 babies, and I still come here to learn. Well, there you go. And Marnie's been coming here for many years. She's been a regular here on My Baby Experts for a long time. We're old friends. So, it's been fantastic to have you join us, especially Marnie, with all your questions, but also with your experience and input that you've given us so many times. And I appreciate that. So, okay. Is there anything else that we didn't cover yet that you think would be a benefit for the viewers to hear more about?
No, I would say just keep an open mind. And if somebody tells you they should never do that, or they should always do that, be skeptical, because never and always are powerful words. There should be lots of changes, but it should build into your daily routine. How can you make development easy for your family and your routine? And then everybody's a little bit happier and a little bit less stressed. And so, and just remember, you should be in sitting, you should be in, on your belly, you should be on your side. There's all those different positions. So we want to make sure that the babies have that variety of movement and positioning as much as every other adult human does.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a little video here I can show too. Let me pop this up onto the screen. I'm not sure if the sound's going to come on or not on this, but this was a mom demonstrating the Crawligator. There we go. I don't know if I can get the sound going with this, but let me see if I can do that. Yes, no sound. Okay, so you can see some really good pictures here of the baby, and she's showing how you can, wipe off the mat, how it removes. It's Velcroed right on there, which is really nice, easy to remove and add on, and clean. And there you go with the wheels. I know somebody said in the chat earlier, didn't realize that it actually had wheels, but it has these really nice caster wheels on here that rotate. There's one stationary on the back, and then the others will spin around so that baby can move from side to side in all directions. And look how cute she looks there. But again, it's just one of those really cute. It does come in different colors. Okay, you can see the different colors if you check it out on Amazon or on Crawligator website. You'll be able to get it from either place and get the color that you like. And I'll show it right here. I actually have a very special one that Stacy sent to me, and it is purple. It's a nice lavender. I don't think this is available, but this was a very special one that I got sent because we like purple over here on My Baby Experts. I'm going to show it to you in person. Let me turn this off for a second so you can see. Yeah, so here's the Crawligator, just so you could get a good sense of the size of it. Nice size. So this is going to last your child for a while here. And then a nice big deep well here. There's the pad, nice padded surface and the Velcro bottom. And then these are the wheels here, so you can see them. Just a really well-made product that's going to last. I could see how these would be great for daycare centers and for preschool, for early in schools and preschools where you can keep them, on hand for multiple babies.
Well, and if you're an inclusive daycare, it really gives that child who's having some mobility delays gets keep up with their same age peers. So they're 5, 6, 7-month-old peers who are starting to crawl and starting to move around. Sometimes babies with motor delays, they just sort of get left behind. And so with this, it gives them some nice opportunity to try to at least kind of hang with the pack a little bit and have a chance at mobility. Yeah.
Oh, they're all asking about the purple color. Stacy, I'll let you answer that one in the chat, Stacy. And Jennifer's asking, is the padding slip resistant?
It is. And then if you turn up over on the bottom too, you see the gray pads in between the wheels there? Right there. Right here. And so that helps keep things from rolling under, but gives the wheels enough clearance.
Yeah, totally. It also seems like those are the spots too where their fingers would be. And if you can see, I don't know if you can actually see it, but you see how it kind of fills in that gap too.
Exactly.
So that it really just prevents little fingers from getting pinched. Right here on the front where their hands are, and right here where their feet are.
Right, because as soon as the child gets hurt on it, like a pinch, which is a serious for a baby. Yeah,
they're not going to want to use it anymore.
Injury. They're done. They're done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fingers can't get in. Fingers can't get under that spot. Nope. It's really nice. It's really, really nice. I got the purple. I also have the green. It's so cute because it is a little crawligator, right? So you got the little gator here, and there's the green one. I really like the green one. It goes with it, It just kind of goes. All right. We do have one more winner to announce here. So I'm going to let Kaylee pull the winner, and good luck to everyone. And hopefully it's you. And we're going to announce it here into the chat. Let's see. Kaylee, you ready for that? I'm sure she's ready. She's got to pull it all out there. But, I'm just so happy that we got to do this show, because I feel like it's so often you have products that just don't get the information that they need. Like it requires a little bit of education. It requires an understanding of why it's important, how to use it, and how important it is in baby's development and just parenting, right? So often when you look at the product and you just think, okay, maybe it's just a toy. I don't know. and you get the understanding that it's so much more. And I love that we could take the time to be able to do this together. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, I loved being here. And if anybody has any questions, they can always just shoot an email to Sherry and she can get it to me, or through
Absolutely.
Stacy. The other nice thing about the Crawligator is a learning tool, and the learning toy is there are no batteries and there are no apps. So you pull it out of the box, it is ready to go. And I like that when I'm dealing with young parents. Or if I'm in an area where electricity isn't common or batteries are hard to come by or wherever, this is what you get is what you need. And so I really appreciate, from a therapist point of view, I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, totally. No, I totally agree.
Let's see who the winner is.
We're going to give it a second to get the winner and find out who the winner is. Good luck, everyone. Let's see where they are. We're going to be announcing it on our Facebook chat here. So hang out for a second, and we will send over the winner here. Did Kaylee announce yet?
Yep, she did.
I'm too far back on the chat. Let's see here. Where did I'm all the way back. There we go. Karen. Congrats, Karen. Fantastic. Yay. Okay. Those are our winners. Congratulations. We appreciate you guys so much for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Robbie, for being here. Thank you, Stacy, for such a beautiful product and for making all this possible. And we will see you again. Okay. We're going to have, I think Joe's going to be back maybe a little bit later today. And we have some really great stuff coming up. And we have actually another big show on next Monday. So stay tuned. big giveaways, big information, great stuff. So I want you guys to all join us. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you later. Bye, everyone.
Thanks everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.